Hi, Ben here from Trout and Fly Fishing. Today we're going to be reviewing the all-new Redington Trace. Now the Trace is Redington's top-of-the-line, medium-fast fly rod designed specifically for the trout angler. It's a new rod for Redington that's not really replacing anything in the lineup, and I'm really excited to find out how it casts. Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, as we've got lots of great videos coming up. Starting from the bottom like we always do, you'll notice this Trace has pretty standard Redington finishing. We've got a single uplocking anodized aluminum reel seat, and this really nice dark wood spacer. You know, if you're looking for that super high-end burled wood, you're not gonna find it here as you'd expect, but it is a nice finish and gives it a little bit of a more classic appearance than some of the more modern metal inserts. Then we've got, pretty standard Redington grip here. I found the cork to be a little bit lackluster even for the $300 price point. It's just not as nice as some of the other rods out there. It's also a little bit of a thicker half-wells grip, so something to think about. If you've got small hands, maybe not the best choice. Definitely a grip designed for bigger hands. Then as we move up the blank, we've got this sort of reddish brown colored blank with red and white finishing wraps. Of course, Redington does add the alignment dots, which we like. And then pretty standard equipment here for stripping and snake guides. These are single foot snake guides, which is sort of interesting. I don't believe Redington has done that in the past. These are a little nicer. They save weight, probably add a little bit to the accuracy, but they are a little bit tougher to rig, so a little trade-off there. Hi guys, I wanted to pop in and let you know that these videos are fully funded by your purchases at our shop. If you find this video helpful and you want to keep them coming, consider making your next gear purchase at troutandflyfishing.com. Now we're gonna get out in the field, show you how this rod casts. Starting at 30 feet, it really feels like the medium fast is a little bit of an extra power rating here. It really feels like more of a medium rod. That said, you get a lot of feel at that 30-foot distance, and I actually quite liked it. One of the things that was strange, we started out casting Rio Gold Elite on this rod, and even with the hopper, we felt that it had a lot of trouble turning over this fly. So 30 feet, 40 feet, 60 feet, wherever you're casting this, it's just not gonna be a big fly rod in any way, at least not with that line, probably not with an MPX. You're gonna have to look for something else if you wanna throw anything over, a size 12 traditional dry fly on there. At the $299 price point, you don't see a lot of rods that are in this softer class, and this rod will make sense for the person that's doing that in-close dry fly fishing. Story's pretty similar at 45. Again, accuracy isn't the absolute best. You really have to slow down your casting stroke, and it's totally not an all-around rod. It's gonna be for those dry fly experiences on smaller rivers. Keep fly size in mind, as it doesn't turn over spectacularly well. Moving out to 60 feet, I was kind of surprised because we've got a pretty soft rod here, a rod that doesn't turn over very well, but it does have some power, reserve power in that butt section, and you can get it out there. In fact, I'd say it probably turned over better at 60 feet than it did at 30 or 45 feet. But by no means a rod that I would want to cast at long distances all day or really ever. It's really sort of a Hail Mary, but if you really had to, you could definitely do it with the new Trace. Overall, I found the Trace to be a bit of a funky little rod. It's definitely not a fast rod. In fact, medium fast is about as fast as you could call it. It's honestly more of a medium rod, if that. But it does have some reserve performance in the butt section, so it's not a total dud at distance. Overall, I think Redington succeeds in making a trout rod, but this is by no means an all-around 5-weight. It's gonna be a tough sell for anyone who really wants to throw nymphs almost at all. If you're throwing dries exclusively, this will probably get the job done for you. Now for the Poseidon score. Starting with the accuracy, I found that the trace was accurate at 30 feet, fairly accurate for a rod of this sort of power and speed at 60 feet, and not all that great at 45 feet. Overall, I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. In terms of components, this is pretty standard for a Redington, pretty standard for an overseas built 5-weight in this price category. Definitely nothing special. I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10. This is absolutely not a distance rod. In fact, in terms of its overall power and ability to toss a fly line, for a 9-foot 5-weight, it's one of the lowest power rods. But if you're willing to slow down your casting stroke, you can get it out there. And it does have a little bit of power reserve, particularly for those longer distances. I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10 for distance. Up next is grip, and we're gonna lose some points here for Redington. I just found that the cork was not up to even that $300 price point. I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 10. Workmanship, pretty standard, and honestly, these overseas built rods have pretty solid wraps, and it's just a decently built rod. I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. One thing that was interesting about this trace is its swing weight. 64 Grand meters squared in the overall scheme of 5 weights is actually probably lighter than half of them that we've tested. That said, I don't feel like that tells the entire story here. The balance point on this rod is really far up. They've clearly gamed the system a little bit by taking as much weight as they could out of the grip, out of the reel seat, and I just don't feel like it's meritorious of, you know, an 8 or a 9 in terms of swing weight. It feels heavier than that. It's gonna fish heavier than that. I'd say it's a 7 out of 10 in swing weight. $300 is sort of the upper end of what we'd like to think of as the value priced rod. On the one hand, you're getting a true dry fly action, and this might be the only rod in that price point that really does that. On the other hand, it's lacking in a lot of ways, component-wise. I'd say it's probably a 7 out of 10. Cool factor is a tough one. I don't think there's anyone that's gonna look at your rod on the river and say, wow, is that new trace? So I'd say probably a 6.5 out of 10. And that leaves us with a total Poseidon score of 50.5, which is on the lower end of scores that we've given to date. We haven't tested too many overseas built rods on that scale, but overall, this is just a specialized tool, and we had a lot of trouble finding the right line for it. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave us a comment or give us a thumbs up in the box below. I'm Ben, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.